It's Wednesday, July 18th, 2012. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And we're Geeknights, back from ConnectiCon. Tonight, the Incal, the epic journey sent to us by Timo.
Let's do this.
We're back, we're bad. ConnectiCon was last weekend. My voice is mostly recovered.
My voice never faded.
Mine got a little faded by Sunday, but then again, I was running around putting out, well, actually, you know what? Compared to previous ConnectiCons and previous conventions we've been to, there were relatively few troubles to deal with.
Yeah, well, I don't know. There wasn't really any big trouble that was involving us. I mean, no convention's perfect, but there wasn't anything devastatingly, oh no, everything's screwed up.
The con went awesomely. The attendance was the most it ever been. We had more panels than we'd ever had. I think we had over 230 panels, workshops, and lectures across 12 rooms for 3 days. I feel particularly accomplished that we were able to pull that off. Mm-hmm. And Scott and I single-handedly ran each one of them. No, but we were the heads of panels and workshops. So if you were at ConnectiCon, I hope you had a good time. If you're one of those random dudes who complain that there were no good panels, I suggest that you have no idea what you're talking about.
I suggest you submit some, or don't just judge them and decide they're no good based on the title. You can't be telling me a panel wasn't good if you didn't go to it.
Yeah. The thing is, the guy there's one guy, and I saw him all over the internet. Like, I think it's the same guy. He's the only guy I see who's actually complaining, as far as I can tell. Mm-hmm. And basically, his complaint was there were no good panels. All I wanted to see was that guy with the glasses, and I couldn't get into his thing.
I think the thing is a lot of, with ConnectiCon, right? We have so many panels covering so many different areas that if you're only interested in one area, we don't really have that much for you. Like, if you're just into manga, it's like, how many manga specific panels are there?
Actually,
3,
for us,
4?
There were almost no manga panels and relatively few anime panels because we got fewer anime panel submissions than we've ever gotten.
Right. But it's like, you know, if you're only into one nerdery, you've only got a few panels to go to, and then you should either A, get into some more geekeries, or B, spend the rest of the con doing something else, or maybe engaging in that geekery.
The thing is, I feel like that's not actually a concern, because the fact is, almost every panel was very well attended.
Yeah. We have notes on everything.
Yeah, ConnectiCon went awesomely. We're not going to...
Too much ConnectiCon discussion. Let's move on.
Why? It was a big part of the last 6 months of my life. And I don't have to worry about it for at least a couple months.
Yeah.
But it was awesome. I want to really give special thanks to Charles Dunbar for coming and doing his thing. And more specifically to Dave Riley and his crew
for actually showing up at something.
I emailed
almost
him.
On time.
He showed up. He started his panel on time.
Almost on time.
What was great is there was a big audience, and he gets there, and he's like, oh, my God, are all these people here to see me? And I was like, what have I been saying for the past, 3 years, that you should do stuff at cons?
Yeah.
So hopefully there will be more Dave Riley stuff at conventions. Yeah, it was awesome. We'll review it on some other day in the far-flung future. And if you want to run a panel, workshop, or lecture at ConnectiCon, we're going to open up submissions for 2013 in a month or two, probably.
Whenever we can. Anything else going on?
What? You're the one who wanted to stop talking about ConnectiCon.
All right, let's talk about something else.
I guess you had something to say.
So check this out.
I'm checking.
Usually, big-time manga creators, they're not the easiest people to meet and greet. It's like comic creators in the U.S., you can see them at Artist Alley and such, right? And, anime creators, you can see some of them at conventions, even in the U.S. But a manga creator, pretty rare. I guess some of them go to Manga Next. Does that still exist?
I don't know. I've never actually been to it.
Yeah. I mean, it's much rarer to find one of them, especially the big name ones. But here's the thing. This actually happened in Japan, though, but still rare anyway. The Conference of the Manga Guest of Honor of Japan Expo, Naoki Urasawa, took place yesterday. Not actual yesterday, because this article is from July 8th, so July 7th. And had great moments in store for the audience of the main stage. And there's all these pictures here of him drawing on a gigantic whiteboard, and he's actually playing, rocking out and playing music for everybody. And why don't someone get him to come to the U.S. and do the same thing?
Well, I remember way back when I was at Animazement, Akira Kamiya was there, and not only did he do the most awesome panels and be the most awesome hanging out dude, but one of his panels was a voice acting workshop of how to be a good voice actor, and he did a bit of, you want to sound like Kenshiro? And it was pretty awesome.
Right, so Someone, please, why hasn't he come to the U.S. yet? Someone get him to come here and do a panel. Jesus Christ.
You mean come to an anime con in America so 5 people can see him?
And be the guest of honor.
Yeah.
Right. I think more people will see him, right? I saw the girl at ConnectiCon this weekend. She went to the Comicopia booth and bought the full stack, all 18 volumes of Monster. She told me, I was like, oh, man. And she was like, I spent all my monies on this.
All right, no, I said that. I'm going to make a supposition here. If we got him to come to ConnectiCon, I think more people would go to his panel than if he were at Otakon.
I think it would feel like less people at Otakon because the room would be bigger.
Well, let's assume we put them both in main events.
Oh, yeah, then it would, I don't know.
It's hard to say.
Close.
I think they'd be close, but if you do it on a per capita basis.
Yeah, anyway.
Mister didn't know what per capita meant.
I know what per capita meant.
Did you?
Yes.
Does it involve
But
land
the thing
area?
is, no,
The map said per capita.
I know that, but the thing is that a lot of times people will say per capita, but really they don't know what it means. I've seen that happen very often where people will say per capita when they really just mean according to some ratio, and they don't really know what the ratio is, and they'll just use that word. So you can't trust when someone says per capita that they mean per capita.
I said that you spell potato with an E because I couldn't trust that you didn't know that.
Exactly.
Don't do what Donnie don't. Anyway.
Exactly.
So, Sailor Moon, what amazes me, at ConnectiCon, we ran some anime panels. And because so few people submitted anime panels, we ran a good chunk of them. Charles ran another big chunk of them, and that was most of them. So, I mentioned offhandedly during the anime openers from around the world panel, which scarily was identical to the one I ran, I don't know, every time I've ever run that, because it's a backup panel to put on early in the morning, but I don't think
did you
people will
actually
come.
do Beyond Candyland?
Yeah, I did the whole thing.
Okay, because I was like, oh, that happened? I missed it? What? Where'd it go?
I videoed it too. There's proof.
All right.
All I got to say, those slides, I had not looked at them since the last time we ran that. We didn't know what the fuck we were doing back then. That is an awful panel.
All right.
We're
Did
redoing
anyone
that
go
shit.
to it?
We're going to rewrite it and redo it, I
Did
think.
anyone go to it?
Yeah, the room was almost full.
Nah.
So, anime openers from around the world, right? I haven't updated it. I only scheduled it because I wanted something to be in the schedule at 9:30 in the morning so the other things at 9:30 in the morning didn't feel all lonesome like. The room almost filled. Half the people there saw it the previous year, and when I told them it's the exact same panel, they cheered. So that's how it goes. So, Mike Toole, you could pretty much run the same dubs the time forgot for the next 10 years. No one would notice.
Do not do.
No, the fact that Mike does all original content every time.
I don't know if it's all original every time.
He
but
said it is all or almost all original content for the dubs the time forgot.
All right.
Not for, I know he's played the same video. I've seen Ivan the Red at least more than once.
Okay.
But I digress. So offhandedly, I showed some Sailor Moon openers, and I said something like, now the new Sailor Moon is probably going to have a different opener. And the audience was like, what? What do you mean new Sailor Moon? And the whole
do
thing
you not read the internet?
Yes, I was like, all right, how many of you are anime fans? And most of the room raised their hands. I was like, how many of you read the Anime News Network? Like one person raised their hand. Well, no. A bunch of them raised their hands. And I was like, for anything other than just reading Anime News Nina. And like one person still had their hand up.
They just read Anime News Nina and that's it?
Yeah. So I was like.
Sounds like me.
I was like, guys, they actually have all the anime news there is. So.
You should probably read it once a week or so.
Yeah. So yeah, new Sailor Moon. So that's my news. They're right around the 20-year anniversary of the Sailor Moon manga. There was announced that there is going to be a Sailor Moon anime series.
It's not giving me that scary live action thing?
Nope, it is not film. It is definitely animated. You can tell how Anime News Network, when this news broke, was like, oh shit, because there is the news, which is 2 paragraphs, update, update 2, update 3, update 4, update 5.
The Anime News Network always does that. Their update, it's their style, is to update things like crazy.
Yeah, because they had to jump on this. New Sailor Moon is a big deal because, as Mike Toole pointed out, which is the only reason I was thinking of him right now, there are probably more sales of bootleg Sailor Moon DVDs than any other anime in the U.S.
Could be.
Because Sailor Moon is ridiculously popular and has a huge nostalgia fan base, and it's a great show for young kids. And it was on TV in America after school.
Well, it's one of those things where it was on TV in America after school, syndicated, so it's just as popular as Voltron, G.I. Joe, etc., perhaps even more popular.
Yeah.
And those things are all worthwhile, apparently, financially to bring back. Transformers even, right? But this one, because it was an anime, right, where as opposed to sort of a half anime like Transformers or Thundercats or any of those other things, because it was anime, after it was on TV and then marketed and then it disappeared. And I think they're currently publishing manga of it in the U.S. And I think that also some company has T-shirts. Does We Love Fine have the T-shirts?
I don't know.
Someone has the merchandise license and makes a few T-shirts. But that's pretty much the extent of Sailor Moon being used for money-making purposes legally in the United States.
Despite the fact that it
at
could
the
easily
present
be a
time
moneymaker.
recording of this podcast, and compare that to, say, Voltron, and Voltron is way more being used by all kinds, DVDs, books, comics, you know.
It's all very
So
interesting.
Sailor Moon is a very underutilized, underexploited license in the United States of America.
Basically, it just highlights the absolute dysfunction of the anime industry here. That this Sailor Moon is pretty much, if I was gonna bet on the most guaranteed anime moneymaker there is, I think it's that.
Yeah.
It like guaranteed money, and yet somehow,
Well, unless the show is awful.
no, the original, the old Sailor Moon.
Oh,
I
yeah,
think.
yeah.
Just taking that old license, just selling DVDs, putting it back on TV, selling that, I think that would make a boatload of money. But I digress.
Well, relative to anime.
So there's a new Sailor Moon, and it appears that it is going to be a redo, like a retelling. It's going to follow the manga. There were rumors that it's going to follow the manga more closely in style, which would be really interesting, because if you think the show is trippy, especially like Sailor Stars toward the end, you've never seen the Sailor Moon manga. It is
Maybe that'll
awesomely
good.
crazy.
Maybe it'll be like the Hakama Kitaro of Sailor Moon. I would watch that.
I would watch the shit out of that.
Yeah.
Because Sailor Moon is not what you think it is. It's basically Green Lantern space bullshit, but anime Sailor Moon magical girl styling.
Mm-hmm.
That is what Sailor Moon is at its core. Also lesbians. Lots of lesbians.
Yeah.
But we don't know many more details than this. And the rumor about that...
Really? What's in those 5 updates? Any details?
Oh, so here's all the details we know as of when we recorded the show.
Reading from the Anime News Network.
An idol group, Momoro Clover Z,
Never heard of him.
is singing the new song.
Okay.
And they covered Moonlight Densetsu. It might be a new song, but they covered Moonlight Densetsu from France, where they were guests of Japan Expo. Yeah. You know what? Anime openers from around the world, I think I know why people keep coming back to it. People were going crazy for German Sailor Moon.
They don't know how to use YouTube to listen to it whenever they want.
No, at the end of the panel, I was like, guys, you can just go to YouTube and find all this stuff and more. I could do this panel for 4 hours. So anyway, update 2. The original voice actors of Usagi and Mamoru were at this event, but no one knows if they're actually going to be the voice actors for the new show or not.
I'm sure someone can sound just like them.
Probably.
This has never really been a problem.
Kodansha editor Osano confirmed that it's an anime. I like how that was update 2.
Okay.
Update 3, he also emphasized that no details have been set for when it hypothetically will be broadcast, but it will be released to the world simultaneously.
Hooray! Smart person.
Yeah.
A winner is you.
So one of the voice actors, the girl who played Usagi originally, mused publicly if she will be in the anime or not. In her blog, she said she'd be eager to play a role in it, and there was no other update there.
Mm-hmm.
And the final update, she said in her blog that the enemy is not the Dark Kingdom, and people lost their shit about that. But then there was a clarification that she was speaking metaphorically, and that the figurative enemy of her would be her when she originally played Sailor Moon, because, quote, that was an audacious performance compared to her acting now.
Mm-hmm.
That is all we know. But the fact that there is a new Sailor Moon, if anything, could be used to catapult anime fandom back to...
I don't think it'll make anime fandom. It'll just make Sailor Moon fandom.
All right, fine. I'll qualify this further. If anything could be used to take anime and use it to make money in the U.S. from a mainstream market, it is this. Right now, this is like a big chance for that industry to ignore the history of terribly licensed, terribly managed companies and properties and just make money, which is what companies are designed
See, I
to
think
do.
I just sort of realized just now. It's like, we're looking at anime like anime fandom, but it's really no. It's people are, you could be a Voltron fan, but no one says, oh, you're an American cartoon fan. It's like, what?
Exactly, and that
it's
I think,
like people are just fans of individual properties. They're not really fans of a whole, category of media or whatever.
Exactly, and
some
this is
people
what's
are,
killing,
but some people are not.
This is what's killing anime cons. Not to name any names, but many people I know who work on the panels departments for anime cons have said they're getting fewer and fewer submissions for anime-related content and less interest in anime content, even though the cons are all growing crazily in attendance. Because it'd be like if you had a sci-fi TV convention, all the Doctor Who fans show up, and all the Sherlock fans show up, and all the Firefly fans show up, but they're not all self-identified sci-fi TV fans.
Yeah, there's plenty of sci-fi TV they don't give a shit about, and if you need Doctor Who panels to get them to go.
I mean, look, ConnectiCon we had almost. I think we actually had fewer than half the anime-related submissions this year as the previous year. Anime fandom as a discrete fandom is basically collapsing.
Anyway,
that's all asides. Because it's time for Things of the Day.
Oh, no.
So you're a fan, Scott. This is kind of up your alley. You haven't actually watched it yet. We showed you at the beginning. But Terry Jones, and you're a fan of medieval guys and tapestries and things like that.
Yep.
So Terry Jones has a show on the BBC called Medieval Lives. And it's a pretty well-researched and believable, I'm credulous toward its information, look at what different sorts of lifestyles were actually like in the Middle Ages. It's delightful, and all of it's on YouTube.
Oh, yeah. I have to watch this at some point.
It's pretty great. I've watched every episode.
Okay. So here's a video on YouTube that has almost over 5 million views, right? We all know that snakes are not good. You don't want to get bit by a snake, especially...
Hey, don't you dare say anything bad about that hot lamia.
You don't want to get bit by a poison snake.
No, you don't.
No. So,
but maybe a hot lamia.
Right, but, snake venom, how does it work? Like magnets. Like magnets.
Now, there are different kinds of snakes venoms, obviously.
Of course. So what they do in this video to illustrate the danger of snake venom and how crazy, you don't want to get bit by it, they take a snake that's way dangerous and they get some venom out of it, like a few drops, like less than like a milliliter in a syringe, right? Then they get like a little cup full of blood from a person. Right? Not too much. And they put 1 drop of the snake venom into the cup of blood and swoosh it around. And it's like, whoa, that is why you do not want the snake venom in your blood. You will be dead in like 2 seconds. You got to see what happens to this blood when the snake venom gets in it.
So that is, I believe, an Opistologia glyphis colubridic poison.
All righty.
As opposed to a Proteroglyphus snake. So I went to Wikipedia to figure out which kind of snake venom that was. And I read the wrong one. It is the...
Proteroglyphus?
No, it's viper venom.
Okay.
That was a viper.
Says here...
Blah, 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 bringing about coagulation of the blood and clotting of the pulmonary arteries.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Any herpetologists out there? I'm sorry for the manner in which I said the words I just said. Okay. I apologize to you.
Are you sure it's not aglyphus?
Okay, I'm going to read to you what happens. Watch this video, and you can watch it while you're listening to the following. This is a quote from Wikipedia. The bite is immediately followed by local pain of a burning character. The limb soon swells and becomes discolored. And within 1 to 3 hours, great prostration accompanied by vomiting and often diarrhea sets in. Cold, clammy perspiration as usual. The pulse becomes extremely feeble. A slight dysnomnia and restlessness may be seen. In severe cases, the pulse may become imperceptible.
All right, I'm going to have vomit just listening to this.
I'm going to read one sentence. This sentence horrifies me. The limb becomes phlegmonous and occasionally suppurates.
All right, I'm good because that words don't mean anything to me. That didn't bother me because I don't know what the words mean. I'm glad I'm not going to become phlegmonous.
Leads to death.
Yeah, duh. Gee, how about this poison? Oh, it's non-lethal poison. That's not poison, is it?
All right, so
check out my non-lethal bullets.
Meta Moment. The book club book was 1Q84 by Haruki Murakami. We read it a while ago. We just haven't done the show yet. We'll try to do the show soon before I forget what the book was about.
I should have taken notes. I don't know why I didn't take notes. I kept
did
thinking
take notes.
I should have taken notes.
Well, I started taking notes halfway through, and I have 3 notes one of which is Little People with a question mark, and then later I circled that.
I'm taking notes from now on for all future book clubs to improve the episodes.
The next book club book will be The Man Who Was Thursday.
How could you be Thursday? It's a day of the week. That's like
Maybe you should read the book.
The Man Who Was Car.
Have you met My Good Man Friday?
Yeah, that's because the guy's name is Friday.
How do you know this guy's name isn't Thursday? The Man Who Was Rim.
Well, that if he was Thursday, though, that means he's no longer Thursday.
Maybe
he changed his name.
Well, if he was Thursday, then the question is, has he been since Thursday? I don't think anyone's going to get that reference.
Anyway.
Has he been after breakfast?
All right.
So, we will be at the Penny Arcade Expo. We actually can announce our panel. It is called Short Subjects in Gaming. Remember that triple threat?
Yeah.
It's that again, but with 3 new topics.
Yeah, it's too bad. We need to come up with a way to title it that'll get better attendance.
Next year I should see. Last year it almost filled the room. And
that was PAX East, right?
2 years ago at PAX East. That was a very popular panel.
It was.
And I think the difference is this year, what I noticed was that we always write very succinct descriptions because most conventions don't only give you a little bit of space in the program book, like 80 words, 90 words. So last year, I usually don't really read the PAX program guide, so I was like reading it. And I realized everyone else who speaks at PAX writes like a quarter-page description. So I emailed them and I was like, so can I just, is there a limit? And they were like, not really. So I wrote a gigantic description of showing all the different parts of this panel and what we're going to talk about, and we'll see what that does. But we were doing,
Not too many people look at the description.
I named the sub-panels. So we're doing a competitive test of skill.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of them. When the game plays the player, that's about rhythm games. I think that's a good way to call that.
Yep.
And on the ethics of mind control.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about more as that's coming up, but it is on Friday in the Wolfman Theater in the afternoon. We are also, we can announce now, going to be at PAX Dev for the first time ever.
Even though we are not devs.
Well, I have half written a shitty game in Unity where a cube scrolls back and forth sideways, shooting cubes at another cube.
I wrote Hangman in C for the Apple LC2.
Oh, and remember that idea you had about a Puerto Rico style war game?
Yeah.
Yeah, I designed it on the way home. I have this really good idea I want to show you. It was in my pocket, but it got wet.
I'm
so I
pretty
just
sure the
crumpled a
game's
piece of
already
paper.
been done in some fashion. I mean, Eclipse is sort of it, kind of.
No, you'll see what Anyway, I digress. But we're going to be there. We've got Luke Crane on our panel, Jared Sorensen, Alex Avery of PopCap Games. We've got a couple other people that I shouldn't announce yet because they may or may not actually be able to be on the panel.
Bale.
Depending entirely on whether or not they either get permission to be on the panel or are going to be in Seattle.
Bale.
No, because they didn't actually bail because they didn't 100% confirm yet.
Mm-mm.
So it was possible they would bail, and I knew they was possible, so it's not actually a bail. But anyway, it is academia versus reality, psychology, game theory, and games. So we talk a big shit game about, how games should be designed. Like, here's the game theory, Colonel Blotto game, all this analysis, psychology. And we're going to talk to game designers and see how much of that academia is actually used in games.
None.
And game design.
Almost none.
Dr. Hazard might be the only person who actually uses it.
Maybe.
And I think it's going to be an interesting discussion.
At least commercially for, consumer video games and such. Anyway.
Otherwise, we'll be at MagFest doing our thing, and that's as far out as I want to project.
All right, other meta moments. You should go to our website, frotrecruit.com, because that's our website. You should go to the website of things. If you're listening to the podcast, how could you not go to the website of the podcast? Also, if you're an old fuddy-duddy, we have an email newsletter. It's kind of crazy. I actually sent it out on time. The second, that's the second one I've sent. I'll probably continue to send them because it's on my calendar and I have a reminder for it. So if you go to the website, there's a little email subscribe link somewhere. I think it might be in the footer or somewhere. You can subscribe to this email newsletter. If you think it's stupid, you can unsubscribe, and it'll actually unsubscribe you, so we're not going to spam you. And it will remind you occasionally of the things we're up to.
Yeah.
If you don't like to be reminded by email, you can also be reminded by Twitter, Facebook, Google+.
I will tell you, though, if you don't subscribe to Scott's newsletter,
RSS.
there's, the information in the newsletter we talk about in the meta moment and everything, but there is also a newsletter thing of the day that is not ever going to be on regular Geek Nights.
We
You will be missing content if you do not subscribe.
There is a small amount of exclusive content in the newsletter part.
Yes, very important.
You could also just, I mean, it's an email, guys. Come on.
Also, we have a video section, so go to our YouTube channel, spread our videos around. If any one of our PAX lectures gets up to 10,000 views before PAX, I will find out based on the referrers who caused that to be, and I will buy you one or more beverages at PAX that may or may not be alcoholic. Notice how I'm giving very difficult to acquire from me, but easy to provide if someone does actually put forth the effort of acquiring them prizes. I've learned my lesson from the contests of ye olden days.
All right, meta moment. We did things of the day. All right, let's do the show.
All right. So this is a very special, very important review. You see,
Years in the making.
Several years ago, our good friend Timo, who lives very far away and is a particle physicist, who at one very important time at PAX, he came to PAX to hang out with
Prime.
us. Yes, it was awesome. But
You also came to the Mocha one year.
whenever a physicist is at a bar with you having dinner and he says, "Here, let me show you something about physics," and he pulls off his belt, you're in for a wild ride.
Yeah.
I have pulled that belt trick on so many people, even though I barely understand it.
Rim taking his belt off in all bars around the world.
Anyway, so Timo, he sent us a care package, a box of a number of comics from his native land that he would like us to...
This is so long ago we still lived in Beacon, so I guess it had to be 08, 09, or earlier.
That, to read, and some of them he let us keep, but some of them are rare or, they're dear to him and he wanted us to send them back. And we said, yes, we will review them, read them all, enjoy them, and send them back. And we're assholes. And I've still got I'm sitting here with the books right now. We finally read them all.
We didn't lose them or ruin them or forget them.
But in return, the care package, when we send them back, I am sending him two of the rarest and most dear, hard-to-get comic series that we have. And he can basically hold them hostage as long as he would like.
What are you sending him?
I think I'm going to send him Sanctuary and Eagle.
I think he has scans of Sanctuary.
Yeah, but it's something else to read, the actual original printing of it.
Yeah, make sure he wants them before you send them.
Yeah, we'll follow up on that. But we've read many of these comics. I think we reviewed one of them because it was short a long time ago. But we read the Incal all the way through. We're here to review this.
Mm-hmm.
So Timo, this is for you.
Okay.
I note that the Incal,
I've heard of this, and I knew it was a famous thing. And also, I know who Mobius is extra famous and does the awesomest arts of all time, and he also passed away recently, which is sad. I don't know who the writer is. I never heard of him before in my life.
Alejandro Jodorowsky. I'd heard of the Jodoverse, but I didn't know what that was.
I'd never heard of that either.
Kind of like how way back in the day I'd heard of Bone. I'd be like, oh, there's that Bone comic.
Well, yeah.
But I didn't know what it was.
Right.
I didn't know it was just a fantasy adventure with a guy who was from
Right.
Boneville.
But anyway, but I knew there was a comic called The Incal. I didn't know anything else about it. I just read it. And there are 2 volumes, and that's the whole thing.
So in the fashion of old comics, we had 2 trades here, and there is absolutely no indication which one to read first.
Yeah.
And if you start reading either one from page 1, it is not any clearer which one to read first.
You have to read the back for where it says epic conclusion or whatever.
You have to read the text on the back to figure it out.
But yeah, that's an annoying thing, just the way they publish comics in the U.S. until the manga boom, sort of, where they sort of realized you're supposed to put volume numbers on things so people know what order to read stuff.
Yeah, even
They just sort of made trades. They didn't really give a shit.
Even Dark Horse is guilty of this bullshit. Oh my goddess. Oh my God, is back in the day, there were no numbers on it. You had no idea which one was the most recent one, which one to read.
That's still going, by the way.
Yeah, I know, but there's numbers on it now,
Yeah.
as far as I remember.
Yeah, I think there's a newer edition of it that is numbered.
I really like that comic, but it eventually went nowhere, and I couldn't read it anymore.
Well, it's still going, even in Japan, so
Yeah.
it's still going nowhere.
So anyway, the Incal gets a lot of points for the fact that it starts and ends effectively in media res, but in a way that feels like you're starting with issue 108 of the Uncanny X-Men, and you should know who all these people are. But yet, no, it's the beginning.
Yeah, it's sort of it does that thing that we always say we like a lot of things to do, where there's a universe and there's a lot of things in that universe, but they're just sort of there, and people, it's not like where people will, explicitly go out of their way to explain something because in the meta, the author knows that you don't know what that is. It's more like Prince of Nothing, where people just start using proper nouns and they don't explain them, and there's no glossary. So you have to sort of figure out in context what all those proper nouns mean and what those things are. And it's like, oh, okay, the police are robots in this world, without any character having to say, yes, in this world, the police are all robotic things and they work this way. It's just you just see them, and that's how you just accept it.
But the difference is that this really makes you feel like you should know. Like the Prince of Nothing, like I don't know and I'm trying to figure it out. This, I feel like, how come I don't know who that guy is? But not in a bad way, but more like the book is admonishing me to make me feel confused and disoriented and force me to kind of just get past that and just go with it. And I kind of like that because I remember when I was a kid and I read my first X-Men comic ever. I just picked up a random X-Men comic and I started reading it. And comics in that era were like the cool kids would read them. And I was into other things. I was like, I'm going to read these comics. And I read some X-Men. And I felt like, I should know who these people are. Like, I should know. It's a failing of me that I do not know who these characters are. The Incal evoked that same feeling.
I do not have that feeling.
Oh, maybe it's just me.
Yeah. I mean, I have had that feeling in the past, but not with this particular book. But
So-
I could see how one could have that feeling.
So interestingly, where a lot of people might have heard about these is that the director of The Fifth Element, there was a lawsuit claiming that elements in The Fifth Element were borrowed from the Incal.
I could see how somebody might think that, looking at the two things, how they might have some sort of connection, but no, not really. They're pretty far apart, even though they have similarities. I don't think there's any enough similarity to claim there's any sort of wrongdoings. What happened with the lawsuit?
They lost.
Yeah,
They lost handily.
So in other words, I'm right.
Yeah.
I saw Lilu cosplay at ConnectiCon this weekend. I said multipass, and she pulled out a multipass.
Of course, if you're cosplaying as her and you don't have a multipass on you.
I'm just saying.
Random aside, the best cosplay at ConnectiCon was the Running Man cosplay.
Yes.
I was so amazed that was there, and I think they were equally amazed that we immediately knew what they were.
Anyone knew it.
We were like, oh my God, Running Man. I almost wanted to run over and rip off their name tag, but I was worried it wasn't actually Velcro and I was going to ruin their costume.
Yeah.
But no, that was super cool. But anyway.
Back off the tangent.
One other interesting thing about the Incal is that the editions that Timo sent us, it was printed multiple times.
Well, in different countries,
yes,
it's probably
in
printed
the
like
US,
a zillion times.
It was printed, well, in English at least, it was printed by Marvel.
Well, in English, you also have to worry about the UK versions.
And printed by DC.
And Australian versions.
But it was printed by both Marvel and DC.
That happens a lot, actually.
Yeah, I know. So Marvel printed it through their Epic Comics label, and DC printed it through their Humanoids label, which was just interesting.
Okay.
I learned that from Wikipedia,
Of course.
which I've got open right now.
Yes.
So anyway, the Incal is the story of a man, John DeFool.
I mean, come on. Then let's talk about the name John DeFool, right? I mean, come on. You could get a little better with the creative name. Obviously, he is DeFool, literally and figuratively, all at the same time. But I mean, come on. It's so blatant, so it's almost lazy, but also at the same time, it's like
Scott, hero protagonist.
Yeah, that's the same deal.
I have no problem with that.
I'm just saying it's the same thing.
Because the names in this are great.
The other
fact
names,
that there are
only the John
Meta Barons.
Oh yeah, I wonder. The thing is, he's called Meta Baron, which is sort of a badass name, but it's like he is not a Baron, nor is he Meta.
He is a badass, though.
He is a badass.
I will give him that.
But yeah, DeFool is the only one with a lazy name. Everyone else has a pretty good name.
Anima and Tanata.
Yeah.
That doesn't bother you?
No.
Okay.
Not really.
Anyway, so John DeFool's a PI, cool dude, I guess. Kind of a loser, kind of smart, kind of Shaggy from Scooby-Doo.
A little better than Shaggy from
His
Scooby-Doo.
character is all over the place. He reminds me almost even of Ataru. Like he's lecherous.
Well, it's like on the one hand, he's like it seems like he's really competent at being a PI, but on the next moment, he's just like getting into all sorts of trouble, being stupid, and then he's being like, all smart. Like, no, I'm not going to go along with this bullshit. I'm just going to go back to my normal life.
Oh my God, there's so many times in these comics where
fuck all this insanity. I'm just going home.
Yeah,
and
all
then,
the other characters are like, but we're going to save the world. He's like, this is bullshit. I'm going home. Fuck
right,
you
and then he
guys.
gives in, and it's like, what? He's just so all over. Clearly he is the fool.
Yeah. But the way it starts is basically like not even the way it starts. What I like about the Incal the most is that the characters are nothing. They're there, but they're almost like set pieces,
Yeah.
as opposed to characters.
Right. I'd say this. I really need better words for this because I say it about almost everything. Right. When we talk about ponies, I'm like, oh, look at the characters in ponies. They're such full characters. They have personalities. They have all these things going on. You could imagine a scenario and say, what would X character do? And you would know what that character would do and be able to act like them or make funny jokes relating to their personality. Right. But with Incal, it's like each of the characters has sort of a backstory and a plot and things like that, but they don't really have a strong personality. It's like, what would the Meta Baron say in this situation? If someone said this to him, and it's like, you couldn't really make a joke like Meta Barons do this and John DeFools do that. You couldn't make that joke, but you could easily make the Twilight Sparkle does this and Rainbow Dash does that joke because the characters are just so empty. But it's sort of like a lot of superhero comics have that same issue, where there's just so many characters. Maybe they focus on a few that aren't empty, but most of them are just shells with costumes on that serve some sort of... The thing is, even though they don't have these personalities and character, they have roles in the plot. It's like each character is almost like a talking MacGuffin of sorts.
But while everyone is like that, they're not bland. They're just not characters.
Right.
But what they are is great. The Incal from start to finish is just like set piece after set piece of just crazy crap.
Crazy weirdos, sci-fi world. The things that are happening make sense in order, right? Actually, there are some characters who do have character, like the president at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But not much. And the character sort of disappears mostly, not entirely.
Depot is pretty good. The stone.
Oh, the bird thing?
Bird.
Yeah, not bad. Not bad.
Because he's often the voice of reason.
Yeah. But it's mostly just, follow this crazy plot that does make sense in a crazy world. And these characters, do their thing along the way and stuff happens.
It builds to a sort of existential. This kind of thing can only go in an existential direction.
Well, that's my kind of action. I love it whenever an anime gets crazy weird at the end, like an Madoka Evangelion way. And Incal definitely goes in that sort of fashion. If you like those sort of sci-fi anime plots where everything gets trippy as you get closer to the end, Incal does that times 10. And plus, the Mobius art totally fits with that, hand in glove.
Yeah, it does. Giant space baby gods and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But the reason I'm not talking a lot about the plot is that it goes like
it's hard to describe because it's so trippy.
Randomly, like in the beginning, remember the super pretty androgynous god people who rule above the crappy city, and like a guy tries to commit suicide, and whenever someone does that, a bunch of other people usually just also jump, and then people who live in the city for fun will just try to shoot them out of the sky as they fall. There's this whole bit about that.
It's like think about that. Even though these characters are nobody, that setting right there, that place, you could imagine all kinds of cool things that could happen in a place like that, in a world like that. So even though you don't care about the people, any specific people, you feel immediately you're in this place where this crazy cool stuff, a lot like many other cyberpunk spacey things, Logan's Run, you feel like, oh man, it's an underground place where you die when you're 30. It's all about the place. Really cool.
But then not that much later, like about halfway through from that point, which is almost right at the beginning, you get to places where there's crazy bird people who worship a fertility thing, and all the guys are actually sperm, and you got to run toward this disintegration chamber and have sex with it. Remember that?
Yeah, it's
because like I don't want to be disintegrated.
It pretty much follows a pattern of introduce weird alien thing, learn how to deal with it, move on to next weird alien thing. You know, and you get and in the process of dealing with the alien thing, you are transformed in an alien way, and then when you go to approach the next alien thing, it's their characters are transformed again, and rinse and repeat until all the alien things have been dealt.
There's not a lot else I can say other than that. If you are a fan of comics, you should read this just to see.
Yeah, I'm not going to say this is like so great, super amazing, but if you are a fan of cyberpunk, things that get existential at the end, crazy, awesome artwork, it is worth reading, especially since only 2 volumes if you can get your hands on them. It shouldn't be that hard, I can't imagine. But it's not like this is must-read comic of the universe or anything like that.
No, this is must-read comic for someone who claims to be a comic book fan.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you're either going to love this or you're not going to get it, but it'll be memorable.
It is something I will remember. I didn't really need to take notes on it.
Like, I am loath to describe plot points, though, because you just got to experience it.
Well, it's about some device called the Incal, which you don't really learn too much about, but it's always there, and it can sort of go in people, and it's also powerful, but there's also you learn a little bit later on, there's like a dark one and a light one, and you have that typical dark light symbolism, balance and all that jazz going on. And there's some people want the Incal, some people have the Incal, some people want to use it for bad, some people want to use it for good.
Now, this all plays out in this sort of like space opera drama of empires and mutants, and there's a sort of
and
there's a Metropolis style uprising early on.
Yeah, and it's one alien race is actually using another alien race to work for them, so you sort of have that beat the guys, oh wait, there was another higher level guy who's actually behind things, move on up the chain to more craziness situations going on. And then of course things get so crazy up near the top, the universe might be destroyed or whatever, so everyone's got to figure out what to do to prevent that, and crazy things happen along the way.
And the way language is used, it was originally in French, but like the emperor, or the leaders, remember the guys with the guy and the girl with the head stuck together, sitting before that like galactic senate?
Show me the picture.
The mega holiness.
Oh, the emperor,
yes.
The emperoress.
But the fact that they call him and her together the mega holiness, like your mega holiness, and that's the word they use, stuff like that is everywhere. The meta baron, the mega holiness, stuff like that in this kind of setting, it would be really silly and derpy anywhere else, but the way this is presented, it is dead serious.
It's kind of crazy how they can get away with that, right? Of having such crazy weird names, but also you're not just like laughing at it like it's a joke, but in many ways it actually is sort of like almost humorous. It's like if you took it's like if you took a snow crash and put in a little bit of Hitchhiker's Guide, just to sort of make it wow off to the side a little bit. I don't know. I can't explain it any better than that. You just have to see it for yourself, like The Matrix.
A lot of naked people too.
There's nothing wrong with that. It's French.
I was gonna point out there's a lot of naked people.
You know that the first time you see Anima and she's all naked?
Yep.
Way hot. Those are like the nicest boobies I've ever seen drawn by hand of human being.
She's very matter of fact, though.
I just said the boobies are really nice. I didn't say anything about anything else.
I like when he's in the disintegration chamber to have sex with the thing, and it takes whatever form will be most pleasing to him, which is her. And the whole time, because she's with like their ground control, basically spying on him, she sees that, and just the way she's kind of nonchalantly reacting to that is actually pretty funny.
Yeah. If you want to learn how to draw boobies really nicely, you should learn from Mobius.
I like how of all the things in this comic, that's what you're really remembering.
I remember a lot of other things. It's just what I mentioned because you brought that up.
Yeah. But no, the Incal is, like I said, if you're a comic fan, you gotta read this, at least so you can talk about it in the context of comics because there's not a lot else out there that's like this that is also self-contained.
There are things
that is also
like,
self-contained.
There are. You just don't know about them.
Yeah, like what?
Weird sci-fi things like that. There's I guess Nexus is sort of like that.
Nah. But the fact you're struggling a little bit.
I don't know. I see things like that.
There's DC Green Lantern crap, but that's a different kind of crazy, and it's not self-contained.
No, not at all. There is some Jim Starlin stuff, but that's a little weird.
Yeah, I'm saying there are not a lot of comics like this.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can read
I
this...
guess Fear Agent, maybe?
The fact that you can read this whole thing in 2 trades means that if you're going to read something crazy like this, you should just read this.
Yeah. Invincible also has some similar aspects in a way.
Granted...
Except for this, it's Invincible has the superhero aspect.
The conclusion to the whole thing, I wish the whole comic was drawn like that.
I know, I always hate that when there's an artwork. That's the thing about Mobius, right? You look at most Mobius artwork and it's like, oh man, that's so awesome, right? You know, especially things he's painted and stuff like that. But then you look in the actual printed comic and the interior pages, you know, they're great, but they're not as great. And it's like, I wonder what it looked like before it was colored. It would probably like be stunning if it wasn't colored. I don't know.
Yeah, seriously, if you get to the end of this, like the last page, that style is great. And if the whole comic had been like that, or if they like animated this and it looked like that, I don't even know what I'd do.
Yeah. That's all right. We're going to read some comics that are awesome the whole way through for awesomeness. I'm going to make it happen because we need some Wednesday episodes.
This has been Geek Nights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geek Nights is not 1, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.